Hey guys, Peter here to do an album review. Today I'm here to tell you all about the latest from Finntroll, Vredesvävd, out September 18th on Century Media. The album has 10 tracks, 37 minutes in length, and this is the band's 7th full-length studio album, first album in 7 years. This is a very interesting record, and I feel like I have to start off with the opening track, because this opening track really sets the mood for the rest of the album and plays off of the overall structure that the record has and how this album is built. The record opens up with Väktaren. This is an instrumental track that has an incredible cinematic vibe. And that cinematic vibe stays true throughout the album. It really lingers onto the other tracks. Not necessarily from a sound-only perspective, but really how the album is put together from that point on. The structure of the record and the cohesiveness that the album has. This is an album that doesn't offer you any breaks in between songs. The album is really interconnected, and what I mean by that is not you don't have a song that finishes with one melody and then the next song starts off with that same melody. That's not the case, but there is no breaks. As one song finishes, the next second the next song starts, so there's just nothing in between them. There's just this cohesiveness all along 10 tracks that brings them all together almost as one and not 10 separate songs. But when you look at the overall big picture, you have 10 tracks on a 37-minute record. Very cohesive, very tight. There's really not a lot of wiggle room with this record, so it makes sense that they would build it like that, and it's built almost like an inverted pyramid. Normally an album is built from songs that put together create that record. This to me was built the other way around. You have a record that you can break down into 10 different songs. So I love that structure, I love that idea, and I definitely love that approach. Now, as far as the sound on this record is concerned, you can break it down into three main elements. The drums, guitars, and keyboards. All of them are in a different layer. This is a very layered record as far as sound is concerned. I felt like they took an approach where they said, we want one element of our sound to be this way, we want this other element to be that way, and we want this other element to be this way. We don't want them to intermingle. We don't want the drums to sound like the guitars. We don't want the guitars to sound like the keyboards, and vice versa. We want everybody to have their own path, their own layer, and then when you bring all of these layers together, then you're going to have this huge wall of sound that will work as one. That is the approach that I get from listening to this album. And now as you look at those three different layers, we can start off with the drums. The drums are really the heaviness, the backbone, the spinal cord of this album as far as sound is concerned. They really build the foundation, everything else comes on top of it. But they're extremely heavy and outstanding. I love the drum work on this album. It's ridiculously good. On top of that level, because that's the foundation, on top of that, you get the guitars. The guitars are very driven, groovy at times, melodic. They really offer a much wider range of approaches, but never really going too much or at all into the folk side of the sound on the album. And I like that. They have their own path, they have their own guidance, and they stay within it all the way through from the first to the last song. Then the top layer, the final layer, if you will be the keyboards and all the orchestration that comes with it. And that's where the folk resides. That is the main folk influence or the main folk driving point of this album, and it stays true that way from the first to the last track. So I like the stratification of sound on the record. I like how each element has its own DNA and it has its own agenda, if you will. But then when you put all three together, what you end up is with a record that has this huge wall of sound that it just feels so big, so alive, almost like a heartbeat. And you can still feel like each level is on its own, but together they really work as one. It's similar to the way the whole album is one that breaks itself into the 10 different tracks. Now, overall, this album is magnificent. One of the best albums of 2020, I have no doubt about it. I love the construction, I love the structure of the album, I love how it's put together. The innovation aspect of it, like I said, the inverted pyramid aspect is really important for me when I'm listening to an album like this. And I love the cohesiveness that it has. 10 tracks in 37 minutes. It's something that always allows an album to be outstanding. It just gives it so much life, packed in such a short punch. Most of my favorite albums are under the 40-minute mark, and I think that's for a reason, because of the way they're structured, the way they're put together. They definitely pack a lot more energy than spreading it out a lot along a lot more tracks, and then obviously with a lot more minutes being included in that, it kind of dilutes a little bit the product itself. So I love this record. I love how it's put together. It's just a very strong album by Finntroll. Like I said, one of the top albums of 2020. I really have no doubt about that. Now, as far as songs are concerned, I want to mention 3 songs that I really enjoyed on this record. I really enjoyed the whole record, but I picked 3 tracks that were perhaps the more outstanding tracks, at least in my mind. I want to start off with döda med sten, melodic opening that moves into a much heavier and more powerful sound. So I really like the intro, and then how it moves into that a little bit more substance. It has a little bit more substance in the sound. Still very melodic. The folk sound that has at the beginning, it doesn't really disappear afterwards. It just kind of goes into hibernation. So it kind of gets hidden into the song, and then it comes back out again, and then it gets hidden, it comes back out again. But it's always there. You always feel the folk presence throughout this track, regardless if it's a heavier moment of the track or a more melodic moment of the track. I love the coexistence between melody and brutality that this song has, because it's a really heavy song at times, specifically when you look at the drums. The drums are very powerful in this song. I love that duality of aspects when you have that combination of heaviness and melody. The final third of the song sees almost a perfect merger of those two worlds. They were coexisting up until that point, but when you get to the third end of the track, these two worlds just become one. And then it almost feels like the volume was increased at that point, even though that's not the case. But it just feels like the volume got larger, that the presence of the song became bigger. Perfect way of ending, and once again, the drums at the end, absolutely relentless. Next, Vredesvävd. This song has a great folky opening. Really melodic, really fun. And quickly it became apparent to me that this is the anthem on this album. This is a folk anthem song. It just has all the aspects that make a great anthem come to life. It has choirs as far as vocals are concerned, very melodic, really well constructed, really catchy, really hooky. All of these things really work well in a live setting as well. This is a live song, and it's a live drinking song. You need to drink, enjoy yourself. It's a party. It feels like a party kind of track that you need to drink, have fun with the people around you, and sing along to it. It has all of these elements that when you put them together, really creates an anthem. It has a great atmosphere, great melodic presence, great melody overall, still heavy at times. Great tempo. It's a song that has an upbeat tempo to it, and that is represented in the sound, but also in the way the vocals are coming across and the more folky elements that really permeate throughout this track. Love this song, and I love how it feels. Like I said, a live track for sure, and an anthem without a doubt. Last but not least, Myren. Great tempo, one of the folkier songs on the record, not necessarily as heavy as the previous two, but definitely the one where you feel that there's the most amount of folk present in it. Very dynamic, it's a very fluid song. It still packs a little bit of a punch, mostly from the drums. That's the only heaviness that you're really going to get out of this track, is from the drums, but it's not as predominant as in the previous two tracks, or at least not as consistent. It's there, but it dissipates very quickly as it comes, as quickly as it goes. Like I said, it has a very folky atmosphere, and it really overshadows everything else. So even when the drums become a little bit heavier, or get a little bit more present within the song, the folk atmosphere, the folk elements that this track has almost hide it. They almost cover it up and allow that to be the main focus for the listener, and not necessarily how heavy the drums are or they're not. I also love the melody that the track has, and the vocals. The vocals really have a great presence in this song, and they really allow the folk elements to really come to the forefront. They almost enhance the folkiness that this track has. This is it. This is Finntroll with Vredesvävd, out September 18th on Century Media. Let me know your thoughts on the band, on the singles, on the album. Use the comment section below. I'll be reading those, getting back to you. Take care, guys.